Open your spice cabinet right now. Find the cinnamon. If it just says cinnamon, and you live in the United States, there is a 99% chance you are using the wrong kind. And after 60, when your liver works harder and your blood sugar needs more careful management than ever, that difference matters more than most people realize. For years, you have probably heard that cinnamon helps blood sugar. The science supports it. Real clinical trials, real meta-analyses, real reductions in fasting glucose and insulin resistance. But here is what most YouTube videos do not tell you. The cinnamon studied in those trials is often not the cinnamon sitting in your kitchen. And the cinnamon sitting in your kitchen, used daily, year after year, may quietly harm the very organ that helps process every drug, every meal, and every blood sugar fluctuation in your body. Today, I am going to walk you through 5 things real science shows cinnamon does for blood sugar after 60. I am going to tell you the critical difference between the 2 kinds of cinnamon, the difference your doctor probably never mentioned. And at the end, I am going to give you a simple way to know which one you have. Stay with me, because finding number 4 is what most people do not realize affects diabetics specifically. Before we get into the benefits, here is something most people do not understand about how cinnamon actually works in your body. Cinnamon contains compounds called polyphenols, natural plant antioxidants, and one specific compound called methyl hydroxychalcone polymer, abbreviated MHCP. MHCP mimics the action of insulin at the cellular level, helping your cells respond more efficiently to the insulin your body already produces. It also slows the rate at which your stomach empties after a meal, which means glucose enters your bloodstream more gradually. The result is smaller spikes, smoother sugar curves, and over time, lower average blood sugar. This is not magic, it is biochemistry. And the science behind it is now backed by dozens of clinical trials. Now, the 5 evidence-based benefits. Benefit 1. Lower fasting blood sugar. This is the most consistently documented effect. A 2024 meta-analysis of 24 randomized, controlled trials, published in Phytotherapy Research, found that cinnamon supplementation produced a statistically significant reduction in fasting blood sugar in people with type 2 diabetes. An earlier umbrella review pooled the results and found an average reduction of about 11 milligrams per deciliter of fasting glucose compared to placebo. That is not a tiny effect. For someone hovering near the pre-diabetes line, that single change can move you back into the safe zone. Margaret, a 64-year-old from Arizona, had a fasting glucose of 118, solidly in the pre-diabetes range. She added 1 teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon to her morning coffee and oatmeal. The cinnamon was not doing it alone, but she is convinced it was a meaningful part of what helped. Benefit 2. Improved insulin sensitivity. This may be the most important effect for adults over 60. As we age, our cells become less responsive to insulin, a condition called insulin resistance. It is the root cause of type 2 diabetes, and it underlies many of the conditions that quietly accumulate after 60. The same 2024 meta-analysis found that cinnamon significantly improved insulin sensitivity, measured by a clinical test called HOMA-IR. In plain language, cinnamon helps your cells listen to your insulin again. Benefit 3. Modest HbA1c reduction. HbA1c is the 3-month average of your blood sugar, the number your doctor cares about most for assessing long-term diabetes control. Multiple meta-analyses have found that cinnamon supplementation modestly reduces HbA1c, typically by 0.1 to 0.3 percentage points. It sounds small, but for context, many prescription medications are approved for differences in that range. The strongest effect was seen in studies using 1 to 3 grams of cinnamon daily for at least 12 weeks. Less than that, and the effect mostly disappears. Before we continue with the last two benefits, let me say one quick thing. If you are finding this useful, the best way to support this channel is hit that like button and subscribe. I read every single comment, and knowing this information is actually helping people is what motivates me to dig into the research and make these videos for you. Now, back to it. Benefit 4. Better triglycerides and cholesterol. This is the one most people do not realize affects diabetics specifically. Adults with type 2 diabetes are at significantly higher risk for cardiovascular disease, and the worst combination is high blood sugar plus poor cholesterol. A 2023 dose-response meta-analysis in the journal Nutrients found that cinnamon supplementation reduced triglycerides by an average of 7.3 milligrams per deciliter and LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol, by 6.8 milligrams per deciliter. It also slightly increased HDL, the protective cholesterol. So cinnamon is not just helping your sugar, it is gently improving the lipid profile that is closely tied to diabetic heart disease. Benefit 5. Slower after-meal blood sugar spikes. If you have ever measured your blood sugar an hour after eating, you know how dramatically a meal can spike it, even a healthy meal. Research published in MDPI Diabetology found that cinnamon, taken with meals, significantly reduces postprandial, meaning after-meal, blood glucose. The mechanism is that cinnamon slows the rate at which your stomach empties, smoothing out the sugar curve. For diabetics and pre-diabetics, this means smaller spikes, fewer crashes, and less stress on the pancreas. And now, the critical warning. The Ceylon versus Cassia difference. Here is what you must know. Almost all cinnamon sold in American grocery stores is Cassia cinnamon, sometimes called Chinese cinnamon. It is cheap, plentiful, and what 99% of households actually have. But Cassia cinnamon contains high levels of a compound called Coumarin, which can stress and damage the liver when consumed regularly in larger amounts. The European Food Safety Authority has set a tolerable daily intake of Coumarin at 0.1 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. 1 teaspoon of Cassia cinnamon can contain anywhere from 5 to 18 milligrams of Coumarin, meaning a single teaspoon can already exceed the safe limit, especially when used daily. Ceylon cinnamon, sometimes called true cinnamon, contains about 1% of the coumarin found in Cassia. It is grown primarily in Sri Lanka, costs more, and is what most clinical studies use when testing therapeutic effects. The flavor is lighter, sweeter, more delicate. If you check the label and it just says cinnamon, it is almost certainly Cassia. Robert, a 67-year-old retired engineer from Ohio, started taking a teaspoon of cinnamon daily after reading about its blood sugar benefits. 6 months later, at his routine blood work, his liver enzymes had crept up, not dangerously, but enough that his doctor asked what had changed. He switched to Ceylon. His liver enzymes returned to normal within 3 months, and his blood sugar improvement continued. The science was right about cinnamon. He just had the wrong kind. So here is your practical takeaway. The effective dose in the studies is 1 to 3 grams of cinnamon per day, about 1/2 to 1.5 teaspoons. Choose Ceylon cinnamon if you intend to use it daily. Look for Ceylon cinnamon, or the Latin name Cinnamomum verum on the label. If your cinnamon does not specify, it is Cassia. Use it consistently for at least 12 weeks to see the effects shown in clinical trials. A few honest warnings before you go. If you take blood-thinning medications, diabetes medications, or have an existing liver condition, talk to your doctor before adding daily cinnamon. Cinnamon can amplify the effects of diabetes drugs and may cause hypoglycemia in combination, dangerously low blood sugar. Cinnamon is not a replacement for diabetes medication. And if you ever notice signs of liver stress, fatigue, dark urine, yellowing of the skin, stop the cinnamon and see your doctor. If this video was useful, please tap the like button. It helps reach more people who deserve real, honest health information instead of marketing. And drop a comment below. Do you use Ceylon or Cassia cinnamon? And did you know about the difference? I read every single one. Disclaimer: this video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Always consult your doctor or endocrinologist before adding cinnamon supplementation to your routine, especially if you have diabetes, take blood-thinning medications, have liver disease, or are scheduled for surgery. Never adjust your diabetes medications without medical guidance, as the combination of cinnamon and diabetes drugs can cause dangerously low blood sugar.